play a game?
Why, yes. I believe we shall.
Oh, I got a live one here.
Live from Little Rock, it's Shane Plays Radio, Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. I'm your host, Shane Stacks. Thanks so much for joining us today, whether you're listening live over the air on 96.5 FM The Answer, or if you're listening via the live stream on 96.5 FM TheAnswer.com, or if you happen to be listening to the podcast version or the delayed version on Krypton Radio, any of those ways you may happen to be listening, I'm so glad that you are. Of course, I think the live show is a lot of fun. Always love people listening live, call in. This is live Geek Talk Radio. It's just like religious talk radio, sports talk radio, political talk radio, call in and fix your car talk radio, but it's Geek Talk Radio. And you can call in at 501-823-0965. That's 501-823-0965. I'll give out that number a few more times during the show. Or you can tweet me at Shane Plays. That's ShanePlays. Don't forget that the show notes for today's show right now are up on shaneplays.com, ShanePlays.com. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One, you know, if you hear me talking about something and you're like, oh, I didn't catch all that, or I want to know more, there's links to my news items and my guests and all that, so you can go learn more. Or if you missed something, then you can go, you know, like, oh, I didn't catch quite what he was talking about. You can go get caught up that way. So you can do that. Also, this show does go out as a podcast. It'll go out on my blog, shaneplays.com. It'll go out on iTunes, Google Play Music, and Stitcher, and other fine podcast directories. It also goes out on my the audio only. It doesn't have a video component on YouTube at youtube.com/GoShanePlays. So there's plenty of ways to catch the show, both live and after the fact. And speaking of after the fact, Shane Plays is carried on Krypton Radio. Krypton Radio is sci-fi for your Wi-Fi, kryptonradio.com. We are carried a week delayed by Gene Turnbow and the Krypton Radio crew over there. Great stuff. If you've never checked it out, go check out sci-fi for your Wi-Fi, kryptonradio.com. Okay, I've got two guests today, one in the studio, one by phone. I'm going to introduce my phone guest first. We've got comics industry artist and industry veteran, John Beatty. John, welcome to Shane Plays.
Hey, Shane. How y'all doing?
Man, doing great. So glad you're here. Really been looking forward to having you. We talked, of course, in June at the Little Rock, the River City Comic Expo.
Yep.
And I asked, and you were like, yeah, I'd love to come on. And I was like, well, I'd love to have you on. So we finally made it happen. So we'll be talking about that. And of course, here in a little bit, we'll give more of your background, but you've been, you've worked with almost every major character in one way or the other in the mainstream comics. And you've got a long history with comics. So I'm really looking forward to learning more. And you've done penciling and inking. And, you know, maybe there's some other stuff you've done that I'm not even aware of that you can share with us. So looking forward to talking to you. The other thing I've got, and you know, John, you may have met my other guest. He helps organize the River City Comic Expo. I've got Stuart Berryhill in the studio. Stuart, what's going on, man?
Not a lot. How are you doing?
Good, man. Glad to have you back. I think this is your third, maybe fourth time on the show.
I think so.
Yeah. So I was like, hey man. And now,
hey, John, how you doing?
So, John, I don't know if you guys have met yet or not, but Stuart is, he's done some professional comics work, and he's also, his main discipline is inking. So I thought it'd be really interesting today to talk about inking. Is that not true? Is that you kind of?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, talking inking with
John Beatty. Is that kind of blowing your mind? Okay.
It's wonderful.
Yeah. So, hey, pull that mic up to you just a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't.
Is that better?
Yeah, it wasn't positioned. Not your fault. It wasn't positioned well for you. So I just thought, you know, when we get into the main topic later in the show, everybody in comics focuses on, for the most part, the writer and the penciler. And I got news for everybody out there. Without the inker and without the colorist, you don't get the product. It's just as important for these other disciplines. So I was kind of wanting to talk about that if we get a chance, you know, what inking's about, how it's important, because I've seen the same pencils inked by different inkers and it's dramatically different. So I think that's fascinating. But that's not all we have to talk about. We can talk about comics and all that. But anyway, before we get into all that, we're going to do some news. I've got a special note really quick, and then we'll get into the news segment. So Zach's here in a moment is going to let us listen in on the frantically hardworking news team. But before that, I want to make a special note. Monkey House Games, who Jeff D. and Jack Herman, who we've had on the show a couple of times, their Kickstarter for Villains and Vigilantes 3.0 Mighty Protectors just went live at noon Central today. So go check that out. The link is on the show notes. It's Villains Vigilantes 3.0 Mighty Protectors. So they had all their legal issues. They got them worked out. So now they're going 3.0 of the Villains Vigilantes role-playing game. So, John, have you played many RPGs? Is that part of your pastimes you like to do?
Actually, I never got into gaming as far as video games or anything like that.
Yeah.
So don't know much about them.
All right. Well,
and don't really follow along with anything. And the only thing that is kind of out there now is my wife is a fan of Mario, and 2 years back we got a Wii, and she was playing the Mario Brothers, and I kind of got interested in that, and taught me a little bit about that. And now I got a 3.5-year-old son, and I still call it a Game Boy because that's what
yeah.
Got him a couple of Game Boys, and he's Mario and Luigi crazy, and he's actually very good for a 3.5-year-old. And I always tell him, I can't play because Daddy's horrible, and he's kind of picked up on that now.
Yeah. And if I play with you, Dad, or if I play with you, son, it'll be even more apparent how horrible Daddy is.
Exactly. Yeah. He calls Mom and the heavy hitter. Yeah,
that's funny. All right. So well, anyway, I'm a huge role playing game guy, video games and tabletop games. Villains Vigilantes. Most people cut their teeth on D&D. I think I played Villains Vigilantes, which is a superhero role playing game.
Right. That's the one that had the Steranko art with it.
I don't remember. I know I had Jeff D did a lot of artwork with it.
Oh, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, Jeff D did a lot. In fact, Jeff D is still associated with it. But anyway, people go check that out. And Monkey House may pop on for a couple of minutes in an upcoming show to talk about their Kickstarter, but we'll see. Okay, and now for the news. Zach, let's listen into that hardworking news team. There they go. Working hard. You know that they're a legit news team because they got a typewriter. You know that, right? Okay, and folks, remember, for every $1 of Patreon support that Shane Plays gets, the news team gets a penny an hour raise. That's a deal right there. They're working on Saturday. Come on, they need that penny an hour. All right, so what I always say I'm going to blow through these news items quick, and then I always don't. So today we're going to do it. We're going to do it. We're going to channel professionalism, and we're going to work through it quickly today. First news item is sad. I'm not even going to pretend it's not. You got... People probably already heard about this, but in case you didn't, Kenny Baker, the actor behind R2-D2, did die. And that news item broke right after the show last Saturday, so I wasn't able to talk about it. But Kenny Baker is best known for playing R2-D2 in Star Wars, and he also had a major role in the Time Bandits movie, which a lot of people remember fondly. And he had some other roles here and there. So, I don't know what else to say. That's sad. And evidently, kind of a silver lining to the story is he was told when he was younger that he would probably die young, like in his teens or 20s, because as he puts it in his own words, he says, I was told as a little person that my longevity wouldn't be very long, but he had a very long life. So, and then I guess he died of natural causes towards the end. So that's good. So, I guess just imagine a sad R2-D2 whistle in your mind. I don't know how they're doing it now. Do either of you guys know how they're doing R2-D2 now? Have they converted over to more remote control, or is there still somebody in there? Do you guys know?
I'm not sure.
I could be 100% wrong or 100% right or half and half, but
it doesn't matter on this show. Just throw it out there.
I believe I heard when they were making the new movies. And I don't mean the one that just came out, but the first three, besides the original first three.
The prequels.
That they, had been able to do so much with CGI and computers and stuff that, people like a Kenny Baker, was
Right.
no longer needed to actually go into the costume and work the controls and stuff in there.
Yeah. Well, I wonder though, and I don't want to spend too much time on this news item, but I wonder if having somebody in there and spontaneously, shaking or, what I mean, adds a little bit more character to I don't know, so we'll see. I know.
Yeah, it could. I think it could, just like any other show, there's stuff that gets ad-libbed or stuff that happens during filming and they decide, hey, we're going to keep that because it was interesting.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Anyway, those, we can always second guess the movie makers, but I personally, I guess just for nostalgia reasons, would rather imagine somebody being in there, but I don't know.
True.
But ultimately, Kenny Baker was more than R2-D2. R2-D2, as much as we love R2-D2 as a fictional character, Kenny Baker's a real person, real family, real, so we're sorry he's gone. And, universally people seem to react with sadness when they heard that. So, okay, moving on. Did you have anything before I did anything you wanted to add to that, Stuart?
No, sir. I'm good.
All right. Well, Kenny Baker, rest in peace, my friend. All right. So the next news item, and that last news item was courtesy of The Guardian. This next news item, Pokemon Go cracks down on cheaters with lifetime bans. So the reason I'm mentioning this, John, I don't, you're self-proclaimed, don't do a lot of video games, but this Pokemon Go app is ridiculous. So I still, the amount of people playing it and the impact that it's having on pop culture is dramatic. So they finally, I guess there's people violating the terms of service, and they're finally starting to respond. And if they catch you doing this, and this news article is courtesy of TechCrunch, if they catch you violating the terms of service and cheating or using a third-party service, they're banning you lifetime. So they're not playing around. They're not playing around. So people keep that in mind. And I still play Pokemon Go. I'm still playing it. The other day at work, I was like, dude, there's a rare. And I popped my head into the break room, and I was like, there's a Percocet. I don't know. It's not a Percocet. I don't know what the name of it was. And the person in there jumped out and ran to catch it and everything. I don't know. I'm enjoying it.
You want to be careful catching those, man.
Yeah, you want to be careful. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, let me be very clear that was not the official name of it. So, but yeah, Pokemon Go, and I predict with the popularity of Pokemon Go that we're going to see a resurgence in Pokemon games, Pokemon cartoon, Pokemon movies, whatever. I can't see that not happening.
I agree.
Yeah, I just can't see that not happening.
I think there's going to be a lot more app-based stuff that is location-based too, like this Pokemon
Yeah,
Go.
Yeah, definitely.
Could you imagine, say, a Supernatural, the TV show?
Yeah.
And you run around.
Well, could you imagine
vampires
like a location-based game where like it's putting like really scary ghost, like you go around a hallway and it jumps out at you or something like that? Yeah, that'd be crazy. Now I know I have it on good authority that John Beatty is just chomping at the bit to do the Pokemon Go comic book. Is that not the case, John? Is that like your aspiration?
I think my wife may like it because I know not that she plays the Pokemon Go. I don't know if she's isolated and not heard of it. I've heard of it, and I've seen a friend of mine will take shots of. He calls them the zombies in the local park at dusk, walking around trying to find.
It's not far from the truth. Yeah,
and so I am familiar with it, and it has sparked, I guess Pokemon back into.
It's ridiculous.
Like not only national but worldwide attention. Yeah, and I remember seeing Pokemon stuff like from back in the 80s, so.
Yeah, no, it's definitely going big again.
It's nuts.
But here's the thing, and I've got a bad pun alert. Okay, I'm just putting everyone on alert. A bad pun's coming. All right, so John, when you do your work on the Pokemon Go comic book, can we get a Pikachu at the layouts first before anybody else? Stuart, do you need a Rolade?
We probably could do that. I used to Ustream. I used to do the Ustream thing back in the day.
Yeah.
And,
Did you really? Are you going to start?
Yeah.
I'd love to watch that. Are you going to start doing it again?
Eventually, I have a buddy of mine that would come over on a Saturday, and I would set it up so that he could kind of monitor the chat room while I was drawing, and he could read off questions, and I wouldn't have to pay attention to the chat room so much because I could just draw and answer questions and stuff, and you know, we had a really good time doing it, and I am currently in the process of actually moving out of my house into office space in downtown Daytona Beach, where I'm at now. And once I get completely moved in here, we will probably go back to doing some sort of like a Saturday sketch show or something like that.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
There too.
I mean, it was quite a bit of fun, and we even, you know, I would run contests from time to time. Maybe, you know, somebody answered a question or somebody came up with something. We'd have giveaway items, like if I had a trade paperback out or something.
Oh, that's great.
You know, we'd have that, and I just send it out to whoever won. And I know we did one. And maybe it was just me at the time, but it was late at night, and some guy that answered the question correctly, he said, "Well, you don't want me to play," and I said, "Yeah, I want you to play." I said, "Why wouldn't I want you to play?" And I forget where he was at in the world, but he was in some remote area. And
what was the shipping on this?
He was the one. Yeah. Well, that's it. You know, the shipping was. It was probably close to $30 to get him a book out, you know, more than the book was.
Yeah. So, wow.
But, you know, I sent it out to him, and I told him, I said, "Hey, I told you could play. You're the one that answered the question."
Yeah.
And, you know, got his shipping address and stuff and sent it out to him, and got a thank you email back from him. So I know he got it.
Nice.
It was fun. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Well, when you look into that again, I would recommend, if you haven't already, there's Twitch, which is, it started as a way of letting people watch other people play video games. They have a whole crafting part where people cook and they do arts and crafts, and it has a huge following of people watching. So you might want to check out Twitch. I don't know how many eyeballs. What's that?
I have heard of Twitch, and I haven't really looked at the interface or anything. I haven't really had time to get familiar with it. There was this, I can't remember what, it was probably around 2011 to 12, 13 or so that Ustream was, you know, there was a lot of people doing Ustream.
I would say Twitch is probably the equivalent now. So I'm not saying don't do Ustream.
Technology.
Yeah. I'm not saying ignore Ustream. I'm just saying you might want to check out Twitch.
Oh, no.
You know,
I definitely, that's been something, you know, I've heard about it. I just haven't had time to go check it out and see what's all involved in, you know, downloading stuff or whatever, or getting a channel. But if you do Google, you know, John Beatty at Ustream or something, there will be some old episodes still.
Oh, that's cool.
Floating around,
Yeah, people need to check that out.
Check those out. You can.
All right. Well, cool. I'm gonna. I've got a triple play, a hat trick of movie news here, geek movie news. I'm gonna hit real quick. I'm just gonna run through these all three at once in the interest of time. One, this is from. Actually, I've got the first two news items are from the Nerdist. One, Henry Cavill has teased the black Superman costume for the Justice League movie. So as everybody knows, when Superman died in the 90s, he came back in this black costume that was helping him absorb solar radiation and get his powers back. And he tweeted out this picture of a sort of a black texture that everyone is assuming is the black costume for the Justice League movie, because it's no spoiler by now. In Batman v Superman, he died fighting Doomsday at the end, not unlike the comic books. Next, this also from the Nerdist, the Shazam movie will exist in the DC universe on its own terms. What that means is they're making a Shazam movie, but they're saying we're not going to be tied to this darker, grimmer aesthetic and tone of the current DC movies.
That makes sense.
They say we're going to be in the same universe, but Shazam is more, I don't know, optimistic, colorful, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, kid-like.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how
he
they're
is
going
a kid,
with it.
isn't he?
Well, Billy Batson is a kid. Yeah, and he turns into the world's mightiest mortal. Right. Gosh, darn it. And his name's Captain Marvel, even though here recently, past few years, they've been calling him Shazam. The Wizard is Shazam.
Right.
By goodness. So, and then last, from Entertainment Weekly, Adam West, Burt Ward, Julie Newmar returned for the animated Batman movie. Did you guys hear about this?
I saw a little bit on the net.
Yeah, Zach's nodding his head. And so it's basically the old TV show, but animated. And I think it's called The Caped Crusaders or Return of the Caped Crusaders or something like that. And there's a link on the show notes. People can go check it out. And there's a trailer that appropriately has them in a huge dinner plate, like a school lunch tray, with like you got your meat here and they're like the entree and they're heading to the fire of doom on like like you're done with your plate and you put it on there and it conveyors it into the dishwasher. Yeah. So anyway, and it's good to hear their voice, but I tell you, I think Adam West is almost 90. He's like 87 years old or something like that. So it's amazing to me that, these people are so like, yeah, let's do another project. So anyway, what do you think? Are you glad that the world is gracing us with this, John?
That the world's what now?
Is gracing us with this movie?
Yeah.
Or greasing us, however you want to.
Is and Robin going to be a full-length movie? Or?
Yeah, I think it's like a full. I would imagine it's at least like an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though the show was back in, but
hey, John, I just say your cell phone's kind of getting staticky there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's better
now.
Yeah, that's much better.
All right.
Yeah. So.
I don't know. I think it depends on who they're going to pull in. I know a lot of people are familiar with Adam West and Burt Ward, and there's going to be those people that are like, who?
Yeah,
so,
like what is this? Yeah, they're expecting
Shazam. My thoughts on the Shazam movie would be give it to Pixar and let them do it.
Oh, what a great idea! Well, unfortunately, Disney doesn't own. Yeah, they own Marvel. That would be great, though. Yeah, that'd
Warner
be fantastic.
Brothers would be smart. To,
or they could bring in DreamWorks.
DreamWorks.
Yeah, they could bring in DreamWorks. That's a great idea.
Right.
See, that's why we got you on, John. Your veteran status brings these amazing ideas that we would never think of. So
it seems like a natural.
Yeah, score one for.
I live action Captain Marvel could be good, but Pixar look or DreamWorks, that type of styling from The Incredibles would just be spot on,
it really would. It would be incredible. To be quite honest about it.
The thing that and I'm very guilty of not going to many movies just because they're pretty much. Yeah, I don't know. I used not to listen to what people said about movies because I really didn't care, and now it's just like I kind of listen, but it's just they come and go so fast. But the thing I have noticed is what you were talking about. The DC movies tend to be dark and dreary, and I caught a little bit because I haven't seen it. The Avengers. This has been about a year ago. I was flipping through some stations and I came into the fight scene of Avengers on TV. And so I paused and started watching it for a while. And I noticed something and I couldn't put my finger on it like right away, but I was just totally engrossed in the huge fight scene that was going on in the city. And a couple of minutes later, it dawned on me that there was color in the movie. You know, I mean, red was red, blue was blue, yellow was yellow. It's like, just like, what
kind of like the old 4-color comics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like red was really red. It wasn't maroon. Yeah. It wasn't dulled down.
Yeah. I don't know why the DC creative, I don't know why they're doing that. They're trying to achieve some sort of, but anyway, I hate to do this. I got to move us on because I want to get us to a break. And then I want to talk about comic books, but last news item, speaking of comic books, from comicbook.com, Marvel, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. People can go to the show notes and look it up or search for it if they want to know more. But Marvel and Hulu have announced a Runaway TV series, or Runaways TV series. Now, evidently, Runaways was a very popular comic book. I think it was in the 90s or the 2000s.
Yeah.
I never read it, but I know there was a lot of people that really loved it. So I thought that was interesting that they're, and what's interesting about this, one, they're doing that. Two, it's not coming to Netflix. They're doing it on Hulu.
Really?
So, yeah. So I thought that was interesting. But anyway, in the interest of time, I got to move us on. We're about to cut to a break. When we come back, we're going to be talking with John Beatty, who is a comic book artist, industry veteran. And we're going to have Stuart Berryhill, who's also a comic pro. And hopefully we'll talk a little bit about inking and what's up with inking and how important it is to the art of comic books. So before we hit a break, though, we got a new sponsor I want to give some love to. This is SpaCon. Meanwhile, in Hot Springs, SpaCon lands in the Spa City September 23rd through 25th at the Hot Springs Convention Center. Come out and celebrate your love of comics, science fiction, anime, cosplay, gaming, pop culture, and all things entertainment. SpaCon is a full-fledged comic convention complete with celebrity guests, vendors selling the wares, comic book artists, panel discussions featuring special guests, cosplayers, and so much more. To find out more about SpaCon, and that's Spa-Con, including a full schedule of guests and events, or to purchase tickets, visit www.spa-con.org. All right, when we come back, we're going to have more with John Beatty. Let's hit a break there, Zach. Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
Megawars.net.
The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate Battle of the Galaxies. Grab your slot today for the only online game where tactics and strategy still reign supreme. Visit Megawars.net and get options only available in our special pre-sales previews running now.
Megawars.net.
The die is cast. Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions, Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays. Hey, we're back. Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio, a journey into things we love. We're joined by John Beatty, who is, of course, a comic book artist and industry veteran. We're also joined by local comics pro Stuart Berryhill. John, we're so glad to have you here today. So glad that you're on the show. As we mentioned earlier, we initially met at the River City Comic Expo,
and worked it out for you to come on. So I'm really glad that worked out. Now, I want to throw out real quick, if anybody wants to call in, you can at 501-823-0965, or you can tweet me at Shaneplays, that's ShanePlays. But whether you call or not, glad you're listening. I hope you enjoy the show, and thanks for joining us on this Saturday afternoon, or if you happen to be listening by the podcast, whenever it is that you're listening. So, John, I wanted to kind of really quick let people know you've been professionally in comics since at least the early 80s. When did you officially professionally begin comics?
1980.
1980. Okay.
Yeah.
And you were some of your highlights where you worked on the original Secret Wars. Mm-hmm. You've worked on Captain America, Batman. I read something that said you've basically worked on every major character in both of the major, like DC and Marvel. Would you say that that's true?
Yeah, pretty much either in their standalone titles or in, some cases, working on Secret Wars, of course. I never really worked on an X-Men title for Marvel, but I did get to, work with the X-Men during the Secret Wars, the original Secret Wars, and over at DC working on Justice League America and Europe. Over those characters.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember the Justice League Europe and just JLA, of course.
Yeah. But, they had characters that you might not normally get to work on because either they don't have a book or, their book was being done by somebody else at the time. So you still got to, use the character and work on it, work on the character for a bit.
That's cool. So, And if I was reading, and the biographies you find online are, you don't know how accurate they are. I was reading that you had met one of the major, I don't know if they were at DC and Marvel. I'm feeling like it's in DC, like one of the major editors, and you showed them your stuff, and they were like, it needs just a little bit more work. And so the next year you tracked them down at a con and showed him, hey, here's how I've improved over the past year. And he said, yep, get up to New York and I'll give you some paid work. Now, is that true?
Yeah, that was actually Jim Shooter.
Jim Shooter.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Jim used to come down to the Miami convention every year. And I believe it was always in April, so it was a nice break from the New York City winters. And Mike Zeck.
Stuart just gave a fist pump for, are you a Floridian, Stuart?
No, I was saying Jim Shooter's a really tall guy.
He's super tall. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 6'7", so he's up there.
Well, when he wrote the intro,
and
are you 6'1"? Yeah, he makes you look. I remember when he wrote the introduction to New Universe, which I personally was a huge New Universe fan. He was talking about he could be considered a paranormal because he's so tall. But anyway. Anyway, so Jim Shooter gave you your first crack at breaking into the business.
Yeah, I had wrote a fan letter to Mike Zeck through Rocket Splash Comic Collector, which was published in Florida. I knew that, but knew nothing of Mike except for his work at that time, and I got a letter back from Mike, and when I looked at the return address, I skimmed it real quick, and it said Hollywood. Well, I think I was 15 or 16 at the time I got this letter back, and the only Hollywood I knew was Hollywood, California.
Right.
And then I automatically thought, oh, California, and then I read the rest, and it said Florida.
Yeah.
I'm like, there's a Hollywood, Florida? And
that's where the movies are really made.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and it's down in the Fort Lauderdale, Miami area, and so I struck up a friendship with Mike, and when we started going down to the Miami conventions, his parents were down there, and he would go down and stay at the show, and he just said, hey, why don't y'all just come? Me and my buddy was going down, and he just said, you're welcome to stay at our house.
Wow.
If you want to sleep on the couch, you're welcome. And so that saved us getting a hotel room and stuff. And, Mike was very instrumental in getting me the work going. And he sent me pencil copies to
yeah, I read that, where he would
Lifeline.
send you stuff so you could practice inking. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
And so I would show that stuff to Jim, and him being the editor-in-chief, he just told me, and I believe it was, I graduated in 79, so I was working through that year, and when the convention came around, I went down with new stuff, and Jim said, well, he said, you get to New York and I'll give you a paid tryout. And so I said, okay, I'll see what I can do. And, I didn't know how that was going to happen. But later on, my friend and comrade and collaborator, let me get that right, Mike Zeck,
your cohort,
said, hey, yeah, he said, hey, if you want to come up, he was living in Connecticut at that time. He said, if you want to come up and hang out at my apartment and work on those samples, work up some samples and we'll get you into Marvel and see what's going on. So I'd planned on about a 2-week trip, and it went into, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks. It extended.
Wow.
I went in. I actually went in and got work, and kind of, Mike said it was a 5-page thing. And Mike said, "Why don't you just do that here?" And he actually wound up redrawing a lot of it.
What a nice guy! Yeah, he was really putting you under his wing there. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike is. Well, Mike invested in me.
Yeah.
And, we always look at it as, Mike was kind of investing in me to become his inker, so that.
Well, and it paid off because you guys did Secret Wars together, which is one of the major,
right?
Series of comics in general, but definitely of the '80s.
And some serious iconic art that you've done.
No doubt.
The two of you together have made a tremendous team.
Yeah. Well, I get the sense that you guys are still pretty close because you were hanging out together at River City Comic Expo.
Oh yeah. Mike and I have never had a falling out, and I'm happy to say that. We've never had any bad blood or fights between us. It's always been very
nice.
It's been a nice relationship.
Seems like creative teams always end up with some kind of bump in the road.
And, I have an older sister and a younger sister, and I just consider Mike to be like my older brother, to tell the truth.
That's fantastic. All right, so I'm gonna embarrass both you and Stuart briefly. Stuart, as an inker, as someone you've done professional work, but you're also always working to improve your craft. I see the stuff you post on Facebook all the time. You brought me in an amazing inked Batman and Nightcrawler that Alan Davis did. What does somebody like John Beatty, mean to you as an inker, somebody who's an aspiring inker? You've obviously followed his work for decades.
Well, I can still remember reading the stuff, the Captain America issues, the Secret Wars stuff. I remember the Batman 10 Nights of the Beast covers when they were coming out.
Yeah.
Man.
I didn't realize you did those, John?
Well, no, actually, Mike penciled and inked those.
Mike penciled and inked? I'm sorry. I thought he had. Oh, okay. I always thought that was you. I just looked at it and went, wow.
Because they look so good.
Yeah. But the early 80s Captain America really kind of blew me away. I remember, I don't know how well that you guys story told, and how much you put on that book as far as being able to tell what was going on, the things that stood out in the images. I didn't know at the time a lot of that was the inker.
Right.
But
I was going to say, a lot of people don't realize, but then I've really had my eyes open in the past few years on how important the inker is.
Man.
And of course there's that go ahead.
I was going to say, it's not like Mike gave me stick figures and I made magic, but, there is a certain, craft, that
absolutely
that an inker, approaches, different pencilers, different ways, and Mike and I had worked together so long, we developed a a certain look, and it working in comics in the 80s was very. That was a great decade. I mean, there was so much creativity and stuff going on.
We talked. I don't know if you remember this, John, but me and you and Mike talked about this at River City Comic Expo. That I miss the energy and the tone and the creativeness and the whatever of the 80s. I miss it. I know every medium matures and genres mature, but there's something about the 80s that was just. I don't know. Like I'm rereading right now. I don't know if y'all remember DC Challenge, where the DC the DC creative teams did a 12-issue miniseries where a different writer and artist team did each issue and set up cliffhangers for the next. I don't think they would do that today. I just don't see that kind of thing happening. So
no, it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
There's, first of all, I read an article online about the way books are being handled now, and that would never fly back in the 80s. I mean, it seems like books are constantly coming out late, and I don't mean a week late.
Yeah, that didn't used to. I mean, that would happen very rarely before, but now it's like,
if ever. I mean, your job was on the line.
Yeah,
back in the day. I mean, you miss a deadline, and you might not be getting the next issue of a book that you were on. Nowadays it seems like
every other
it's commonplace. Yeah, and I don't know who to point the finger at and blame, and I'm not gonna. Well,
it's just more. It's probably more of a systemic, just slow change and then one person or anything.
Well, I think a lot of it is, books are pretty much set up to go direct to print paperback. It's kind of obvious,
which I don't like because
I mean, I miss, and I think we may have discussed this. I miss having a consistent creative team on books. I don't want to be on. I don't want to pick up a book where somebody in a creative team is going to do 4 or 6 issues, and it's going to come out in the trade paperback. Well, I'll just wait for the trade paperback.
Well, they're like, hey, we're going to put you on for 8 issues because we're going to do one story arc, and this is going to be a trade. Whereas, look back at the dynasties like the Chris Claremont and like John Byrne. I mean,
and Terry Austin.
How long did they go? Yeah,
108 till 143.
Was that it? Yeah. I felt like it was even longer, but that's still like what? 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. I mean, back in the day, back in the 80s, when you were assigned a book or you were offered a book or something, the companies wanted you to be on that book for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, build up a readership.
They wanted you to develop, the characters. They wanted to know that they had somebody in place that was, reliable. And, it was the fans. And I don't know, I really haven't, I guess I'll put it out there, I don't know if they really want some same creative team on a series, in this day and age. They might be happy with 4 or 6 issues and then out and on to something else.
I don't. I mean, I can tell you as a reader.
I don't either.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Being able to invest time into a character and get to know the little nuances as you work on it and discover things as you go through, a 2 or 3 year stretch.
You also can't play the long game, right? You can't plot the long game, right? Like you can't plant stuff that's going to pay off 2.5 years down the road and really blow people's minds. Hey, to do this, I got to take us to a break. I got to pay the bills. When we come back, I'm gonna ask a question to John that he's probably gonna be like, I don't like to answer that kind of question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. Gosh darn it, because this is hard hitting radio journalism. Real quick, I'm gonna throw some love at one of our sponsors, Game Goblins. Some goblins are your friends. Game Goblins is Central Arkansas's premier retailer of Magic the Gathering, Warhammer 40K, board games, card games, RPGs, miniatures, and hobby accessories. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at GameGoblins.com. Make sure to check out their customer loyalty program that rewards you based on your actual purchases. Game Goblins earns your business and keeps it. First-time customers, mention Shane Plays and receive $10 off your purchase of $50 or more. Call Game Goblins at 501-224-GAME or visit them online at gamegoblins.com. Tell them Shane Plays sent you.
Comic book lovers, visit thewildstars.com today. From the mind of author and comic book industry expert Michael Tierney, it's not just a comic book, it's a comic book novel. The Wild Stars is sci-fi and so much more. Learn the explanations behind UFOs and space gods. This isn't the Twilight Zone. This is the region of the Milky Way galaxy known as the Wild Stars. We guarantee you've never read anything like it. The complete comic book novel took 20 years to tell, with one reviewer noting, the story of the Wild Stars stretches ambitiously across space and time, from small-town murders to the destruction of planets, with every event given multiple layers of meaning. If you haven't read The Wild Stars, you're missing out. Visit thewildstars.com today.
Megawars.net.
The classic online space strategy game has returned, bigger and better than ever before. Scout the universe and claim your empire. Construct, customize, and launch dozens of different starships. Battle thousands of opponents online in a team-based competition leading to the ultimate Battle of the Galaxies. Grab your slot today for the only online game where tactics and strategy still reign supreme. Visit megawars.net and get options only available in our special pre-sales previews running now.
Megawars.net.
The die is cast.
Plunge into worlds of fantastic adventure where dragons lie and the undead stalk the shades of your mind's imagines. Where creatures of legend plunder wealth through the horror of their passage. Monsters grim and foul hold the ecstasy of gold and the renown of glory. All this and more awaits you and your friends in the unlimited, fantastic world of the Castles and Crusades role-playing game from Trollord Games. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy today. A rules-light, adaptable game that has stood the test of time. 12 years in constant publication with no new additions. Castles and Crusades is the original, easy-to-play attribute check system. Join us and unleash your imagination. Visit your friendly local game store or Trollord.com to get your copy of Castles and Crusades today. Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/Shane Plays.
Hey, we're back. Shane Plays Geek Talk Radio, a journey into the things we love. Before we get back to talking with John Beatty, my local guest, comics pro inker, Stuart Berryhill, has a shout out he wants to do.
Hey, Connell. Hey, Caitlin. I hope you catch some good Pokemon while you're out there.
But don't be zombies.
Don't be zombies. No zombies.
All right. So we've got about 5 minutes left. If anybody wants to call in, you're welcome to. It's 501-823-0965. I've got to ask a question that writers and artists, creative people hate. But I'm going to ask it anyway. John, who is your favorite character to work on?
Captain America.
Wow, I love. He just threw that out there. He didn't equivocate at all. Now, why do you love Captain America so much?
He's always been my favorite character since I was a kid.
Yeah.
When I started reading superhero comics, but Batman and the Punisher were also my favorite.
I had those first 5, the first Punisher miniseries they did. Those first 5, I had those, man. I loved those. Yeah.
I was very blessed. I got to have nice long runs on 3 characters that were my favorites. Yeah. So that's you can't ask for much more than that in the business. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I'm not trying to pull you in any drama, John. You don't have to address this, but I love Captain America too. I love what he represents, not just as a comic book character, but he's been in pop culture for so long now. He's a symbol of things beyond just comic books. I was very not happy with the recent twist. And I understand there was cosmic cubes. I don't care. I did not like that. So I hope that it sounds like they're already kind of reversing that, or, and it was already part of the plan not to leave that. And I'm not even going to go into what it is. I've already ranted about it. But I think there's some characters you just don't mess with on a fundamental level. And I think that...
Yeah, and that's one of my... real quick, because I know you're on time.
Sure.
One of my pet peeves is, Captain America is Steve Rogers, and how many Captain Americas do they have out there now?
Yeah, I'm with you.
There's like 12, aren't there?
Well, that's a trend. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that it's to the point of, come on, let's have Captain America.
Yeah.
And, I mean, you know what? The Ultimates back in World War II, when they do a thing, that doesn't bug me so much as when they just come out with titles just for the sake of using Captain America and putting a twist on.
Yeah.
It's just Captain America to me is the character that
he is Steve Rogers, because it's his whole, he was the 4F, but he had the big heart. And, here's the thing. Here's a trend I don't like. Now, some people like it. I talked to a guy at work the other day that likes this trend. I don't like it. Okay. Like you've got people, somebody's taken over Iron Man now. A young college girl is now Iron Man. The character is more than the hero name, right? Like it's not Iron Man. That's a young college girl in an Iron Man armor, but that's not Iron Man. Iron Man is Tony Stark, right? So I'm with you, John, and I understand they want to tell interesting stories, and they're trying to, I think Axel Alonso is his name. I read an article where he wants more diversity and all that stuff. I'm for diversity. I'm not for co-opting existing characters. I'm more for let's introduce cool new characters that stand on their own. But I guess that could be, I'm not in the industry. Maybe that's harder than I know. But I'm with you. Like Captain America is Steve Rogers. When you say that now Captain America or Steve Rogers is a Captain America, that diminishes the character somewhat. So,
right.
He used to be an artist.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah, he was an artist. I remember that. Yeah.
I haven't seen Captain America. I haven't seen Steve Rogers draw anything in years.
All right. We've got, I'm going to leave you the final 30 seconds here. John, do you have any tips for aspiring people who want to get into inking or get into the industry?
You know what? I really don't have a good answer for that, because the whole system of comics has changed since I broke in. And it's really a question mark to me. If I was trying to get into comics in this day and age, I would just make sure my work was out there, and I was trying to network and meet people and try to get to the right person that could, somehow give me a break or maybe tell me,
Right. All right. Well, hey, man, thanks so much for being on. I got to wrap the show. Radio time always goes so quick, but thanks for being on. We will catch all of you fine folks next time on Shane Plays Radio. Thanks, Stuart. And thanks, John.
Kenny Baker! Love you! You, baby! You! It's all about you where it started. You! Kenny Baker, where it all started at, man. R2D2, the best. Kenny Baker, awesome.
Shane Plays Radio is blessed to have sponsors, and we appreciate them very much. However, did you know that you can also support the show as an individual for as little as $1 an episode? Simply go to patreon.com/ShanePlays.